Hey guys, today's topic is going to be on opening portals. And what kind of got me thinking about this was we just had the eclipse on Monday, and coincidentally, for the first time in 2 years, they decided to fire up the CERN Large Hadron Collider. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's this particle accelerator that's underground in Geneva, Switzerland. And if you really want to learn about this, you can go down the rabbit hole on it. But the official scientific explanation for what it is that they are studying how particles react when collided at high speeds. They're searching for the Higgs boson particle, or the God particle, as they call it. And they fired it up on Monday for the first time in 2 years to study dark matter. Okay, now if you really want to look into this, you can look into maybe the opening ceremonies of this, and there's a lot of occultic, ritualistic symbolism involved. You can look at the fact that they have a statue to the Hindu god / demon Shiva out front. Shiva is the destroyer deity in Hinduism. And you can also look at the logo, which has 3 sixes kind of creatively interwoven with each other. This is not really going to be a video on CERN. I just thought it was kind of an interesting starting point, but it kind of got me down the rabbit hole of thinking about portals and kind of like, really, what is a portal, right? And so, to me, really, a portal is an opening to another realm. So call that the aerial realm, the astral plane. The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls it the Bardo realm, but it's basically that realm that exists. It's not quite heaven or hell, but it's also not the material world. It's sort of this spiritual plane of existence in which, I kind of believe we're not really fully in this realm or fully in the spirit realm. We're sort of in between. We have a material body, we're moving through a physical world, but at the same time, we have influences from the spiritual realm always acting upon us. And that's kind of, where spiritual warfare comes into play. And so these portals get opened in various ways. One way can be through rituals where, people are doing certain things with certain intentions, that intention being to kind of lift the veil between these two realms. This is seen in all types of religious practices. This is seen in things even such as Ouija boards, where you were, essentially opening the door and inviting spirits to come and communicate with you. This is also done through psychedelics, though, because psychedelics, in a way, open us up. Any sort of psychoactive substance is going to open us up to this realm. And so, for thousands of years, this is really how the shamans and the high priests of all different cultures have kind of been interacting with these deities. And this is a very real thing. This is not, people want to chalk it all up to hallucination. And it's not just, hallucination to me is, taking some mushrooms and maybe seeing the wood grain patterns moving in a funny way. This is different. This is actual. I'm not referring to hallucinations. I'm referring to actual communications with other deities. And this is a very real thing, and it has been for thousands of years. If you look at the Egyptian pyramids, okay, for instance, it took an extraordinary amount of resources to build those pyramids. And it wasn't just so that Pharaoh could have a fancy tomb. To this day, we still don't know how they built these pyramids. They aligned them in such a way so that they were aligned with true north. They brought humongous stones from a quarry over 300 miles away. We have no idea how they got these whole stones, how they transported them, and we also don't know how they cut them so precisely. There's all these things. So not only is it an incredible feat, but we really don't know how they did it. And you have to think, they didn't just do this for some kind of superstition. There was this, it was a story, and the people need a story. It's like, no, Pharaoh, the high priest, and all the people believed in what they were doing. This was a very important project that took an extraordinary amount of time and resources to complete, and they did it for a reason. And they did it I don't know exactly why they did it, but they were, there was a purpose behind it. And so we can look at all different cultures across the world, and we can see them building things and doing certain rituals. And it wasn't just out of superstition. It was for a very specific reason, and it was probably because they were getting information. They were getting technologies from these deities. It's a very real thing. And so, we continue to do it today. And I think, in today's culture, a lot of times when people take psychedelics, like I know when I was younger and I would use psychedelics, it wasn't necessarily for spiritual revelation. It was just to have fun, to go to the show and drop some acid and see lights and sounds. And that's kind of where, there's that. And as you get older, and I didn't really do psychedelics for a number of years, but even up maybe 3 years ago, I kind of felt like I needed a lot of this is before I became an Orthodox Christian. I had this feeling that things were just not sitting right. I needed some kind of guidance, and I didn't have a church. I didn't have a spiritual father. I didn't really know where to go. So I had done ayahuasca in the past, and I sought out an ayahuasca group here in Asheville, and I kind of went down that road, and I had very specific intentions for that. It wasn't just to see colors and sounds. It was for inner revelation. And so I think that's what a lot of people do it for now, is to have things revealed to them. And things will be revealed to you in that state. The question really becomes, how do you discern what is true and what is false? Because you are being opened up to the realm of spirits. And more times than not, that is the realm of demons. And their goal is to lead you away from God. And they can do that in so many ways. It doesn't just have to be with a lustful temptation or this or that, or it can be through, and honestly, one of their most effective tools is to play off of our pride. And so a lot of times in this state, you might have something revealed to you, and they can kind of see, they kind of know us so well because they're always watching us. They don't know our thoughts, but they can see what we are. They can hear what we say, and they know how to push those buttons, right? So I've had things revealed to me that were, at the time I thought were true. Oh, you're the reincarnation of such and such and such. It was just ego. It was just playing to ego and just leading me further away from God and further into delusion. And so, that's really the game we're playing here. And we don't only open ourselves up through psychedelics or through satanic rituals, but in so many little ways. It really comes down to our intentions, right? Intentions really matter, because intentions are really about where we put our attention. And it's interesting that those two words are so similar, because our attention is, in a sense, a form of worship. So if you wake up first thing in the morning, you check your phone and you start scrolling Facebook or Twitter, it really shows you what your highest priority is, versus if you wake up first thing in the morning and you give thanks to God, right? So you can see people who maybe are who playing the stock market, or for me, it was Bitcoin, it was cryptocurrency, where I was constantly looking at charts and this and that, and I realized, and I had somebody thankfully point out to me that, like, oh yeah, you're worshiping the golden calf. Like, that's exactly what you're doing. You think you're trying to, beat the game or whatever and make enough money so you can build a home, but really you're just worshiping at the altar of the golden calf, and it's bringing out all these terrible things like greed in you. And I had to really step away from the whole thing, and because it was not good for my soul. But that's just one little example. We give our attention to all these things, and if it's not serving God, then it's not good for us. And some people might say, no, I did this ayahuasca trip, and I had all these things happen. They've all been positive. It's helped me stop drinking. I'm not saying that there's no benefits there. And for me personally, that was the night that the door blew open to Christ. Now, it had nothing to do with ayahuasca. I was already on my way there, and I had no visions or anything. If I had had visions, I would, I've had people tell me that they had an ayahuasca ceremony and they saw Jesus. And I mean, to me, I'd say more likely than not, that was not Jesus. that, we have to remember that in scripture it says, behold, even the devil can come as an angel of light. So, if the demons appeared in their real form, it would terrify us and we would be repulsed and we would not want that. If they appear as a being of light that's come to help us and bring enlightenment to us and peace to the world, well, we're much more readily able to embrace that. And like I said, if it's not leading us towards God, it's leading us away from him. And so the whole idea of psychedelics for spiritual growth, well, I'm not saying there might not be any actual benefits to you, because I know a lot of people that have done them and have been able to overcome various addictions, and I do think they can be helpful in that. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter. The demons don't care if you are addicted to this, or if maybe they can get you addicted to something else that might not be as harmful to you, but it might lead you down even a further path away from God. And so we always have to remember that, nowhere in scripture are we called to seek God in this way, through the ingestion of substances. Nowhere in the entire scripture. In fact, it warns us against that. And it talks about pharmakia. It's saying, like, don't take these substances to alter your mind in this way, because this is not a new thing. This is not like this just came about in the 70s. This is ancient, okay? And people have been doing this for a very long time. And so, we are not called to seek God that way. And so what I've come to see is we don't actually need these substances. We don't need to be opening these portals in order to experience God or to grow closer to God or to grow spiritually ourselves. The only thing we need is prayer, fasting, liturgy, the holy sacraments. These are the things that as I've pursued them, I've seen that this is it. This is where the true transformational potential is, and that it actually makes every other psychedelic trip and spiritual experience I've had seem just like a cheap imitation. And so now this kind of brings us into cannabis, I own a cannabis company, and it's a very complicated subject because when I say cannabis, I'm just talking about the cannabis plant. People think I'm talking about pot. I'm talking about, well, if you've got all these different cannabinoids, some of which are non-psychoactive, and really with THC being the psychoactive one, that's where most people's mind goes when I say cannabis. But you got to understand, CBD, CBG, CBDV, THCV, these are non-psychoactive cannabinoids. I'm not going to say they're not mind altering, because they are. CBD will alter your mind in the sense that if you're very anxious, it will relax you. And so in the same way that coffee, alters your mind, I would say that these non-psychoactive cannabinoids can also alter your mind, but they don't open you up. In the same way coffee doesn't open you up the way taking mushrooms or something does. And so I think we need to differentiate between, mind altering and psychoactive, because THC is really the psychoactive component of that plant, and it is not psychoactive to the degree of mushrooms or ayahuasca or anything like that. But especially in high doses, it can be pretty darn similar, and it can definitely open you up. And THC is a complicated one because I'm not trying to come down on anybody who uses THC. You got to understand, I've used THC for 20 years, and it's only recently that I've just kind of come to realize I really don't need that in my life anymore. But there was a time where it was the only thing that kind of seemed to diffuse this. I was in this agitated state, and THC would help kind of just level everything out, and it made life tolerable. And so I'm not trying to, we're all at different places, and if you're going to use THC to come off Xanax or fentanyl or something like that, more power to you. Use it as a stepping stone, because those are terrible things and they're very dangerous. And if you could smoke some pot and not do those, I think that would be good. Because it would kind of give you more time. When you're playing with things like fentanyl, you're spinning the roulette wheel, and that's a very dangerous game. And really, anytime you do it, that could be the last time. And so I do believe that, you know, THC does have its purpose. I think it's just, you just have to know that when you take it, you are in a way opening yourself up, even if just a little bit. And some people will use so much THC that it probably doesn't open them up in the same way that somebody who just does it once a month, where it's going to hit them really hard. It's going to be really psychoactive because, you know, they don't have any tolerance to it. Somebody who's doing it all day, every day, it kind of just becomes, yeah, like a relaxing thing to do, and they build a tolerance to it. It doesn't really affect them in such a psychoactive way anymore. I know people that do 300 milligrams of THC a day, which would absolutely floor most people. And I've had experiences where I gave, there was this girl at a farmer's market, I gave her a little vial of CBD oil, and I said, take half, and then, you know, another time take the other half. And it was 100 milligrams of CBD in there. And our CBD oil is full spectrum, so it does have a minute amount of THC. We're talking very small amount, less than 1%. But she took the whole vial and she called me almost like in a mist of like, I don't think she had ever done any cannabis before. And she was like, am I gonna be normal again? Like, do I need to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, just calm down. Just maybe put on some nice music, drink some water. Like, I was like trying to talk her through a bad trip, but it just showed me that like this hits everybody differently. And so, you know, in terms of like, what are we opening ourselves up to through these substances? It's not just through substances, but it's through everything. It's through everything we take in. If you're watching a bunch of videos, if you're going down a rabbit hole on YouTube, getting you stirred up about conspiracy theories or Donald Trump or whatever it is, you got to understand you are opening yourself to these things, and it is taking you away from God, and it can be very dangerous. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like, you just need to be very mindful of what you're putting into your body, what you're putting into your mind, and where you set your intentions. Anyway, that was a little bit of a ramble. If you guys stayed with me, thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm open to having these discussions. I'm kind of in this industry, and I'm sort of asking God for guidance on how to direct the future of Akira Botanicals, and praying that He will speak to my heart. So thank you guys for all your support, and I'll see y'all next time.